She texted, "Everyone thinks we're done," while I was waiting to pick her up. I looked at the flowers in my hand and wondered if I'd missed the breakup. I was standing outside Blue Harbor with a bouquet of white lilies, Ellie's favorite. The kind she said smelled like beginnings. Friday night, 7:40 p.m. The sky was bleeding into indigo, the bay lights flickering like champagne bubbles. We'd been together almost 2 years, and tonight was supposed to be a celebration. My promotion, our next step. I'd even reserved her favorite table by the window, the one where she once said, "I could watch this view forever, as long as it's with you." Then my phone buzzed. "Everyone thinks we're done. Just a heads up." I read it 3 times. Done? A breeze shifted the lilies, carrying their sweetness into the street like a mockery. While I stood there like an idiot with flowers in my hand, her friend Jenna strolled by with her boyfriend. She looked at the bouquet, then at me, a pity smirk curling her lips. "Oh, you didn't hear?" They kept walking. Ellie never showed. By 9 o'clock I was still there. The waitress finally approached, gentle voice breaking the silence. "Would you like your dinner to go?" Half an hour later, I opened Instagram. Ellie's story played, her laughing at a coworker's party, cocktail in hand, the caption glowing like a slap, "Single and loving it." White lilies on my passenger seat, cold takeout beside them, the kind of silence you can taste. The next morning, Austin felt unusually quiet. Even the birds outside my window sounded half-hearted, like they knew something had changed. I called Ellie twice. No answer. Then a text came through, almost casual. "Don't make this dramatic. I just need time to think." Time to think. Apparently, that meant deleting every trace of me from her life. Instagram photos, Facebook tags, even the Niagara Falls trip where we froze together in matching blue ponchos. 800 likes gone in under an hour. I watched our history vanish like it had been a draft she'd decided not to publish. The coffee in my hand went cold before I realized I hadn't taken a sip. It wasn't even anger yet, just the dull ache of something final. The quiet kind of ending, the kind you don't argue against because the silence already has all the answers. We lived in my house, technically mine, long before she came along. A modest 2-bedroom in South Austin, mortgage steady, job steady, life steady. I was 32, she 28. She'd moved in last year, temporarily. The way people say for now but start unpacking dreams like they're permanent. She told me she was saving for grad school. Just a year or 2 to build up a cushion. That cushion, apparently, was my living room. I opened my laptop and typed into Google, "Guest versus tenant Texas law." The first result: if your name isn't on the lease, you're considered a guest. A small, clinical sentence, but it felt like oxygen returning. By noon, I'd called a locksmith. The man showed up in a dusty van that smelled faintly of cigarettes and WD-40. Didn't ask questions. Just did his job. "New key set," he said, handing me the cool metal. "Anyone else need a copy?" "No," I said. "Just me." He nodded, the way people do when they understand more than you've told them. The lock change cost $185. Best money I'd spent in months. When he left, the silence of the house was startling. Not empty, just honest. No Spotify playlist humming from the kitchen. No half-sung pop songs drifting from the shower. No heels clicking down the hallway or endless FaceTime calls with her friends about manifesting opportunities. Just me, the hum of the fridge, and the faint sound of wind nudging the blinds. I sat on the couch, looked around. The space felt unfamiliar, like someone else's life staged for an open house. Her scarf still hung on the back of a chair. Her favorite mug sat in the sink, lipstick faintly marking the rim. Her plants, which I'd kept alive every time she forgot, leaned toward the sunlight like nothing had changed. I thought about calling her again, about demanding closure, some explanation that would make the story line up. But the truth was already written in her caption. Single and loving it. You don't post that and then come home. Instead, I opened a beer at 11 a.m. because there was no one left to judge me, and scrolled through old photos. There she was, mid-laugh, hair tangled in the wind, arms around my neck. I stared at it for too long, until I noticed the background. The faint reflection of me in her sunglasses, phone in hand, smiling like a fool. It wasn't the loss that stung. It was realizing I'd loved someone who was already halfway gone. That evening, I bagged up her things, not in anger, just efficiency. Dresses, shoes, the overwatered succulents she'd sworn were low maintenance. I stacked everything neatly by the door. She could collect them when she decided to face what she'd left behind. By midnight, I sat on the couch again, the house dim except for the glow of the TV I wasn't really watching. The lilies from last night were wilting in their vase, bending under their own weight. Outside, the city went on. Laughter spilling from bars, cars humming down Congress, life refusing to pause just because mine had. For the first time in months, I realized I wasn't anxious about when she'd be home, what mood she'd be in, or what small version of myself I'd have to become to keep the peace. The quiet wasn't empty anymore. It was clean. And beneath it, somewhere deep in my chest, something small but certain began to shift. Not anger yet, not revenge. Just the cold, calm awareness that endings are easier to survive when you stop waiting for apologies that won't come. The doorbell rang around 4 p.m. Sharp, frantic, like someone trying to summon a ghost. I already knew it was her. Through the peephole, Ellie. Sparkly silver dress, hair curled, makeup heavy enough to suggest she'd been preparing for a performance, not a conversation. And there she was, her friend Jenna right behind her, phone already recording like a paparazzi at a scandal. I opened the door halfway, just enough to block the frame with my shoulder. What the hell? My key doesn't work. Ellie snapped. Because you told everyone we broke up, I said evenly. I'm just confirming it. Her expression twisted, confusion morphing into performance-grade outrage. It was sarcasm. Everyone already knew we were rocky. Rocky, I repeated. You called yourself single and loving it. That's not Morse code for let's talk it out. By then, a few neighbors had drifted onto their porches. Nothing like a live drama on a slow Saturday. Jenna gasped theatrically, raising her phone higher. You're insane. I'm filming this to show how he's kicking her out. Good, I said, tone flat. Make sure you include the part where she announced it first. Ellie's face flushed, a dangerous shade of red. You're really doing this to me? After everything I sacrificed? She pushed past me, or tried to. I didn't move. Her hand brushed my chest, but I held my ground, voice calm but cold. Ellie, step back. Don't tell me what to do in my house, she screamed. Your house. I gestured around us. You don't pay rent. Your name's not on the lease. You packed up your dignity on Instagram 2 nights ago. That one landed. The spark left her eyes for just a moment before she shifted tactics. Tears. Loud, messy, weaponized tears. She threw her arms wide and cried out for the audience. He's throwing me out. My stuff's still here. Boxes by the door. Her clothes, her plants, her sentimental junk. All neatly labeled. It's right there, I said. Take it and go. She didn't. Instead, she kicked one of the boxes, scattering her heels across the porch like props. Unbelievable, Jenna hissed, circling with the camera. We'll post this. Everyone will know what kind of guy you are. Perfect, I said. Hashtag single and loving it, right? That got a laugh from somewhere. My neighbor Tom, leaning on his porch railing with a beer, shaking his head like he'd just tuned in to the season finale. Ellie sobbed harder. You're heartless. I don't even have a place to go. You moved out, I reminded her. You just forgot to take your things with you. The tears turned to shrieks. She began flinging things, scarves, a picture frame, one of her own shoes onto the lawn. The neighborhood dogs started barking. Car slowed down to watch. Jenna shouted at me to stop abusing her. That was when I pulled out my phone, calm, deliberate, the way you might draw a sword you're confident you won't need to use. I'm calling the cops, I said. Ellie froze mid-yell. You wouldn't. I would, I said, dialing. You made this public, Ellie. Let's make it official. The operator's voice was steady. Mine was too. I explained there was a disturbance at my address. An ex trying to force entry. By the time the patrol car rolled up 10 minutes later, half the block was invested. 2 officers stepped out, one older, clearly the patient type. "What's going on here?" Ellie jumped in immediately, her voice a symphony of practiced distress. "He changed the locks on me. He's throwing me out of my own home." The officer looked at me. "Do you have proof of residence?" I handed him the mortgage statement and ID. "She's not on the lease. She moved in as a guest." The older officer turned to Ellie. "Ma'am, if you're not on the lease, you'll need to leave." Ellie's voice cracked. "This is ridiculous. We lived together for a year." "That doesn't make it your house," he said gently. "If you'd like to pursue civil action, that's a different matter. But right now, you need to leave." She turned to me, eyes red, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "You're really doing this?" "I'm just confirming what you already posted," I said quietly. For a second, the performance faltered. Then she grabbed one of the boxes, muttered something about karma, and stalked off toward her car. Jenna followed, still recording but no longer smug, the kind of silence people keep when they realize the audience isn't cheering. As the officers drove away, I heard it. Faint, polite clapping. Looked up. My upstairs neighbor, an old guy named Richard, stood on his balcony, golf visor tilted. "Hell of a show, son," he said. "But next time, charge tickets." The crowd dispersed, and the street went back to normal. The lilies on my passenger seat from 2 nights ago had started to brown around the edges. I tossed them into the trash can by the porch. The house was mine again, quiet, orderly, untouched. And in that strange calm, as the sun sank behind the roofs and the laughter from the neighborhood faded, I realized something. The show was over, but the story, that was just beginning. 2 days after the front yard circus, my phone buzzed with a message that started the next act of madness. "You ruined my daughter's life. She's humiliated." Ellie's mom, Diane, a woman who once called me the most stable man Ellie's ever dated, now texting like I'd orchestrated a war crime. I didn't respond. What was there to say? You can't reason with someone who's raised a professional victim. An hour later, my silence was answered online. Ellie had posted a full-blown Facebook manifesto, 5 paragraphs of poetic gaslighting. "Sometimes men can't handle strong women. I asked for space, he threw me out. I've been emotionally manipulated for months, made to feel small in my own home." She'd even added a crying selfie at the end for effect. Hair messy, makeup perfectly smudged. Within minutes, the comments rolled in. "Girl, you deserve better, broken heart. Another narcissist exposed. Proud of you for walking away from toxicity." Hundreds of likes, hearts, and the obligatory "stay strong, Queen" replies. Watching it was like seeing a stranger build a museum exhibit about a life you never lived. By evening, I started getting texts from mutual friends, the neutral kind that try to sound supportive but carry judgment in every word. "Hey man, I don't want to get in the middle, but Ellie's saying some serious stuff online. Maybe take a break from posting for a while." I wasn't posting anything. I was too busy trying to figure out when honesty had become a spectator sport. That night, while scrolling through the chaos, a new message popped up in my inbox. From Josh, Ellie's ex. The one who, according to her, never got over her. "Dude, not sure what's going on, but she was at my brother's party last night hitting on me. Crying, saying you were a psycho who locked her out. Just thought you should know." I read it twice. My stomach didn't even drop this time, just a cold, detached clarity. "Thanks for the heads up," I replied. That lines up with her pattern. 10 minutes later, Josh sent a short video clip. Grainy, recorded on a phone from across the street. Ellie outside a bar, hair down, hugging him, laughing through crocodile tears. Behind them, her friend group cheered like this was a season finale. The caption beneath the video when it hit Instagram the next morning was worse. "When you finally escape your abuser, nail polish sparkles, #freedom, #new beginnings." I sat in my kitchen, the sunlight cutting sharp through the blinds, reading those words over and over. Abuser. The word tasted like rust in my mouth. It spread fast. Mutual acquaintances, co-workers, Even a couple of old college friends started unfollowing me. My phone became a slow-motion train wreck, notifications, screenshots, concerned messages. By Monday morning, I was halfway through my second cup of coffee when my work phone rang. Char. Hey, can you come by the conference room for a quick chat? That phrase, quick chat, is HR's way of saying we've been dragged into your personal life. Inside, my manager sat with the HR rep, both wearing that neutral expression people use when they've already decided to believe the safer story. So, my manager began carefully. We received some inquiries from a client who saw certain posts online referring to you. What kind of posts? I asked, even though I knew exactly. Accusations of emotional abuse, intimidation, and financial control. She posted that? They exchanged looks. We're not making assumptions, but given the visibility, we need a written statement from you for our records. Just to be safe. It was surreal, hearing your reputation dissected like a case study. I explained briefly. Ex-girlfriend, breakup, false narrative, police already involved. HR nodded through it all, taking notes they'd probably file away forever. When I left the room, the air in the hallway felt heavier, like everyone could sense something had shifted. At my desk, I sat staring at the screen, cursor blinking in rhythm with my pulse. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. Just alert. Ellie wasn't being dramatic. She wasn't hurt. She was strategic. Every move was calculated: victim posts, public sympathy, professional sabotage. She turned our breakup into a PR campaign, and I was the villain in her script. That night, I poured myself a drink and opened my laptop. Not to check her social media, not anymore. Instead, I started a new document. Title: Ellie Timeline. Every text, every screenshot, every receipt, every voicemail. Dates, times, context. I wasn't writing a diary. I was building a case. Because the thing about people like Ellie is that they mistake silence for surrender. And if she wanted to turn this into a story, fine. I'd make sure it ended with the truth. A week later, I thought the storm had passed. The online noise had dulled. Her friends found new villains, and my phone was blessedly quiet. Then, that Saturday morning, the doorbell chimed again. Not a press and hold kind of ring, a rhythmic, desperate one. I looked through the peephole. Ellie again. Hair unwashed, makeup smeared, phone in hand held vertically. Live streaming. Her voice carried through the door and down the street. He locked me out. I just want to talk. I have nowhere else to go. Viewers were commenting in real time. The screen reflected in her sunglasses. OMG, stay strong, queen, loudly crying face. Call a lawyer. Men like this need to be exposed. I didn't open the door. I didn't say a word. Just called the non-emergency police line. By the time the patrol car arrived, Ellie had switched from tears to anger, pacing the sidewalk like a director waiting for better lighting. When the officer stepped out, she immediately pivoted into damsel mode. Officers, he's illegally locked me out. All my stuff is still in there. He's been abusive. The older officer cut her off gently. Ma'am, do you live here? Yes. Well, I used to. We were together. Are you on the lease? She hesitated. No, but do you have any mail with this address? I don't. But he said I could stay here. The younger cop's body cam was blinking red, recording every frantic syllable. I stepped out onto the porch, calm, hands visible. Officers, I have the mortgage documents. She's not a tenant. We've already been through this last week. The older one nodded. Yeah, we've got a record. She's been advised before. Ellie's voice cracked. You can't do this. I just want to talk. Ma'am, the cop said, tone turning firm. You've been told you're trespassing. You need to leave. If you come back, you'll be arrested. The live stream kept running as she backed away, still narrating. See, this is how men silence women. He's calling the cops instead of talking. She ended the video with fake tears and a shaky voice. I just wanted closure. The officers waited until she was in her car and drove off before turning to me. Keep the footage, the older one said. Might need it later. He was right. 3 days later, I got a letter in the mail from a local attorney's office, thick envelope, certified delivery. The subject line read, Notice of intent to pursue civil action, unlawful eviction/emotional distress/lost property. Ellie was demanding $9,000 in damages. I scanned the pages, each claim more absurd than the last. Emotional suffering, loss of reputation, missing designer shoes, which, incidentally, were still sitting in one of the boxes she'd refused to take. I called my old college buddy, Sam, who was now a defense attorney. When I told him the story, he actually laughed. "Let me guess," he said. "She's got no lease, no written agreement, no proof of residency?" "Correct. Then she's got no case. File a restraining order before she escalates again." So I did. The court date was set for the following Friday. Small courtroom, fluorescent lights, and a dozen bored faces waiting for their turns at small tragedies. When our case was called, Ellie was already crying before the judge sat down. Her mom was beside her, glaring daggers at me. My lawyer whispered, "Just stay calm. Don't look at her. Don't react." The judge, a silver-haired woman with a voice sharp enough to cut marble, began. "Miss Richards, did you attempt to enter Mr. Hale's residence after the locks were changed?" Ellie sniffled. "I just wanted to talk." "Yes or no, Miss Richards?" "Yes." "Did you live stream that attempt?" Her face went pale. I was just documenting for safety." "Answer the question." "Yes." The judge sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Then there's no ambiguity here. You were told not to return. You did, and you broadcasted it publicly. Mr. Hale, your request for a restraining order is granted." Ellie gasped. "What? For how long?" "1 year. No contact, physical or digital. That includes social media posts, messages through friends, or indirect references. Violation will result in arrest." Her mom exploded. "You destroyed her. She loved him." The bailiff stepped forward. "Ma'am, outside. Now." Diane kept shouting as they were escorted into the hallway, her voice echoing against the walls like the final note of a bad song. When the door closed, the silence was heavy but clean. My lawyer leaned over. "Congratulations," he said softly. "You just got your life back." As I left the courthouse, I saw Ellie sitting on a bench by the parking lot. Mascara smudged, phone still in her hand, maybe waiting for someone else to start filming. For a brief second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then she looked up and glared, that same defiance burning behind her eyes. And I realized she wasn't sorry. She was planning her next audience. The restraining order wasn't an ending. It was just the curtain finally dropping on Act 1. A month passed. The heat of early summer pressed over Texas like a heavy quilt. And for the first time in a year, the quiet in my life wasn't the anxious kind. It was earned. I didn't check Ellie's social media anymore, but pieces of her story still drifted to me, carried by the algorithm like bits of debris after a storm. The same platforms she'd used to build her theater of sympathy now turned on her. Someone leaked the bar video, the one of her hugging Josh while calling me an abuser online. HR at her company found it. A week later, her profile vanished from the staff page. Unprofessional conduct. Someone told me quietly through mutuals. Her friends who once commented, "You deserve better," stopped replying altogether. The attention she'd thrived on dried up overnight, replaced by silence and side eyes. Even her sister posted something vague but sharp. Some people confuse chaos with passion. Eventually, you just get tired. That one stayed up for 12 hours before being deleted, but not before everyone knew who it was about. Then came the final twist of irony. Josh and his fiancée filed their own restraining order after Ellie showed up at his gym, demanding to talk. She'd used the same lines, the same trembling hands, the same teary monologue. Apparently, she tried to livestream that too. When the judge granted Josh the order, she screamed in the hallway again. A familiar tune by now. Me? I didn't scream. I didn't post. I didn't even think about her much. Work picked up after my promotion, a new position, better pay, the kind of stability that used to intimidate Ellie. I moved to Dallas, to an apartment high enough that the city looked peaceful from above. No ghosts followed me there. The first week in the new place, I found an old box I'd forgotten to unpack since before Ellie. A mix of college mementos, ticket stubs, and a half-empty notebook. I flipped through it one evening and found a page I'd written years ago. Peace is not what's left when people stop hurting you. It's what you build when they can't reach you anymore. It felt like a letter from a past version of me, one I'd finally caught up to. And then there was Kate. I met her at a coffee shop near my office. She was the barista with a messy bun, a quiet laugh, and a habit of humming to herself when the espresso machine hissed. The first time she remembered my order without asking, I smiled and said, "That's dangerous. You'll make me a regular." She smiled back. "That's kind of the point." By our second date, sitting outside under string lights and cicadas, she asked me the inevitable question. "So why are you single?" I hesitated, not out of shame, but because the story sounded like fiction when told aloud. Still, I told her everything. The flowers, the Facebook essay, the courtroom. The way love had turned into a public trial. She didn't interrupt. She didn't flinch. She just listened, tracing the rim of her glass with one finger. When I finished, she thought for a long moment, then said quietly, "Sometimes people test love by breaking it. You just learned who you were when it broke." I sat there, stunned by the simplicity of it. No dramatics, no pity, just truth. Ellie had wanted to look free, so I let her be exactly that. Now, freedom meant something different to me, not the absence of someone else, but the return of myself. I still pass by Blue Harbor sometimes when work takes me back to Austin. The restaurant's window glows the same golden hue. The bay still catches the light at dusk. Sometimes there's a couple sitting at the corner table, the same one I'd reserved that night with lilies in my hand. I never feel bitterness when I see them, just a quiet kind of distance, like watching a movie I've already seen to the end. The last time I visited, the hostess smiled and asked if I needed a table for two. "Just one," I said. She nodded and led me to a seat by the window. I ordered Ellie's favorite dish, sea bass with lemon risotto, and realized I didn't even taste it the way she used to describe. It was just food now. Ordinary, peaceful. That's what healing really looks like. Not fireworks or revenge. Just sitting alone in a quiet restaurant and realizing you don't need anyone across the table to feel whole. If someone decides you've broken up, believe them. If they perform your heartbreak for an audience, don't audition for a role in their show. And never waste flowers on someone who already left. Keep them for yourself instead. Because sometimes, the only thing that really grows after a storm is the garden you plant in silence.